Who is Lilly Phillips?
Lilly Phillips. Lilly Phillips, that's the young lady from the United Kingdom who is resolved to sleep with 1,000 men in less than 24 hours to break a record.
Why did you want to make a documentary about her?
When was the last time you ate?
I think I had a yam yam. Yam yam, is that what they're called? A little pastry. And I think I had a sandwich, and that was kind of, and then the rest come.
You can't make this up. When I began education on the internet, I never could have imagined what this channel could become. The thing about using popular media as a springboard for medical anatomy lessons has the potential to lead to some, shall we say, interesting stories across my desk. If you haven't heard about Lilly Phillips, well, this is your chance. Buckle up, bro.
I see that you've kind of like taken on the word like and almost owned it in a way.
Yeah, 100%. I don't mind being called a I'm sleeping with 100 guys in a day.
Lilly is an OnlyFans model and freelance sex worker who turned her college promiscuity into a career, thinking, why not get paid for it?
Yeah. Guys are always going to sexualize me, so I may as well try and profit off that bit.
Okay, so what are the seeds that are planting to make you think like this?
I was being a slusser anyway at university. You know?
Okay.
There's no way you could enjoy that experience. You can't even enjoy like a...
Speak for yourself, babe. What do you mean? Like,
what are you talking about?
Are you bent, mate?
It's not.
Lilly claims this hobby is a genuine passion of hers. She just loves to please and explore her kinks. And while she is not in it for the money, but for the freedom the lifestyle affords her, her drive for viral success, fame, and the world record is obvious. And fueled by an internet culture that rewards the most extreme content. People like her often push boundaries while ignoring the health risks involved.
It just keeps being like leveled up and up and up of the expectations.
After sleeping with 100 men in a single day, Lilly plans to top that with 300, then 1,000, chasing that shock factor. But what are the physical risks of such extreme behavior? Many are worried about her lack of sexual health awareness and how it could put her in danger.
Oh, she didn't know HIV was sexually transmitted. She didn't know that? Huh. I thought everybody knew that.
Though she seemed blissfully unaware and almost naive beforehand, after the event, she broke down in tears, leading many to question if she's being honest with herself about the mental and emotional toll of competing for attention in such a stigmatized industry.
Like, I'm already being a super slag. I may as well just go that bit further and put in the hard work and become the super.
Do you hold
the super slag?
Today, we'll discuss the physiological dangers of Lilly Phillips' sex work, particularly during an event of this magnitude. How intense sexual activity can exhaust or strain the body, especially without proper arousal, the risk of STIs, the potential for violence, especially the link between sexual arousal and aggression, and lastly, how this kind of work can impact mental health. So, as I said, Lilly Phillips recently completed a major accomplishment of hers, having sex with 100 guys in a single day.
I'm excited just to get the first one in.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you just like want it to start. It's like doing a race, like you just want it to start.
There are different views on sex. Some see it as meh, just an act. Others, the intimate experience of making love. But most would agree that it's meant to be enjoyed, not just something to get through for the sake of accomplishments or bragging rights. After hitting the first milestone, 100 men, Lilly's going for the world record, 1,000. When asked on the Reality Check podcast if she thinks it will affect her mentally later on, she didn't seem concerned.
Do you not feel like this is going to have an effect on you mentally in the future?
No.
Why not?
Because I've already done 100, I've already done 300, may as well bloody do 1,000.
She doesn't seem worried about what her older self may think. At 23, along with many young men involved, she and they are technically consenting adults. But they're also impulsive and impressionable young people.
Hey there, I know I'm late, but would love to you and lose my virginity.
He actually said loose my virginity.
Adults can make their own choices, and I'm all for living in the moment. But you'd hope that moment reflects your authentic self, not one where you have to become robotic just to perform through it. It kind of takes the magic out of it.
I've got like a routine of like how we're gonna do this, and like it just, sometimes you'd like disassociate and be like, you know, like it's not like normal sex at all.
The 100-person challenge didn't exactly set the stage for what most would consider an enjoyable sexual experience.
How many of the are you? 8. Light work. That's rookie numbers.
Right from the start, there was little romance. Lilly essentially sent out an open call to her fans and booked them time slots. She cycled through men every 5 minutes, sometimes in small groups to hit the numbers faster.
So honestly, I'm just hoping for like a conveyor belt of cocks. Like they need to kind of like walk in the room, one pump in, one pump out, and then leave.
Come on in, make yourself at home, take your shoes off. I've got some hangers here if you want to put your coat up.
Nice.
Come on in, where you travel from today? Oh, lovely. Yeah, oh, it's so nice to meet you. I'll get you on the bed, make yourself comfortable, take off your trousers, and we're gonna have a fun time.
Every time I've said, are you okay? Do you need a breather? She's like, no, bring the next guy in.
She essentially became a sex machine, which is problematic because sex is typically a mutual exchange of love and pleasure, and the body has natural mechanisms to prepare for intercourse. For example, men experience increased blood flow to the penis, leading to an erection, while women produce vaginal lubrication to facilitate penetration. When the body isn't sufficiently aroused, lubricants are often used to mimic this natural secretion.
I think I just more go into like the mode of being like star and just kind of like do my thing.
She basically gets the juices flowing by getting into character, acting, if you will. She mentions that if she's not attracted to someone, which she often isn't, she won't remember their face. That's assuming she can even see them at all, since most of her scenes are filmed with the bright lights and the camera focused on her.
I genuinely can't remember any of their faces.
Right.
Or maybe if I saw that then like I'd recognize them.
Immediately after the event, she mentioned barely remembering 5 out of the 100 men, which suggests a lack of natural attraction, a key factor in arousal. And given the time constraints, it's difficult for the body to naturally get there. Plus, each person has their own sexual rhythm, and in Lilly's context, it'd be harder for their bodies to sync up, which can increase the risk of unintentional rough sex, friction. Repeated penetration can cause micro tears in the vaginal tissue, making it more prone to infection. It can also lead to swelling or edema and inflammation of the vaginal lining, causing discomfort. The pelvic floor muscles, which control vaginal tone and contraction, may also become fatigued, leading to temporary discomfort, potential changes in tissue elasticity, and the sensation of looseness and increased risk of prolapse. To reduce these risks, proper lubrication, rest, and hygiene are essential. Remember, vaginas are sensitive and they can literally get beat up.
Surprisingly, downstairs is not really sore. It's more just tired. My eyes sting like nothing else.
Why?
Because of all the cum in it.
Fortunately, Lilly reported using lots of lube and that she was surprisingly not sore afterwards. But the minimal breaks and questionable hygiene are optimal conditions for infection.
What does it smell like?
Like brace yourself. Brace yourself.
Oh, holy shit.
I guess it you actually can. Is that real?
The vaginal microbiome is vital for health. It's like a home you want to keep safe and clean. Frequent changes in sexual partners can disrupt the balance of good bacteria, leading to yeast infections or bacterial vaginosis, which cause itching, burning, and abnormal discharge. Urinary tract infections are another concern, as women are more prone due to their shorter urethra. To reduce this risk, urinating after sex helps flush out bacteria. UTI symptoms include burning during urination, pain, blood in the urine, and kidney pain. Both yeast infections and UTIs can happen on their own. But one of the biggest risks for some with as active a sex life as Lilly's is sexually transmitted infections, or STIs. They're even common amongst regular sex havers.
I mean, there's a decent chance that one of them is going to be dangerous. One of them might have a weapon, have a criminal record. A few of them will have STIs.
While she prioritized partners with STI tests, she acknowledged that this still doesn't fully eliminate the risk of contracting something.
Like you can never 100% know if they've had an STI test, and even if they had, they could have slept with 10 girls in between the test and things like that.
As she says, you know what you're getting into if you choose to participate. STIs involve the transfer of pathogens, bacteria, viruses, or parasites through sexual contact and can affect the reproductive organs, skin, and mucous membranes, which are moist, thin layers of tissue and are extremely vulnerable to infection. STIs are typically linked to not using condoms, so Lilly made sure they were used during any vaginal intercourse. But for oral sex, no protection was used. Many were shocked by her lack of sexual knowledge considering her line of work. She didn't know that HIV is transmitted through bodily fluids, so she was letting men ejaculate on her face and in the mouth without a care in the world. I want the blood clots, man. Oi!
What if they had HIV?
Is that where it comes from? With spunk in the mouth?
It can.
Oh, really? See, I've never really thought about that.
Well, let's think about it, shall we? Though HIV/AIDS is fairly rare, sex workers face a much higher risk of contraction, 30 times higher than other women. This viral infection weakens the immune system and, until recently, with the help of modern medicine, was considered terminal. So yeah, it's a pretty serious concern.
Is it concerning though when you've got so much flying at you and you're like, okay, this might be AIDS, this might be AIDS? Or...
Not really. Well, we do rapid HIV tests.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Rapid HIV tests give accurate results in 20 minutes, with only a tiny chance of a false positive. But that's just one of many STIs. Most can't be detected with on-the-spot testing. Other viral infections include herpes, which causes sores, and HPV, which may lead to warts or cervical cancer. Bacterial infections like chlamydia and gonorrhea affect mucosal tissues, causing pain or discharge. And parasites like trichomoniasis cause itching. The immune system fights infections with inflammation. But as mentioned with HIV, some can damage immunity over time, so the body can't fight back. So while many STIs cause localized symptoms such as pain, sores, or swelling, others can spread and cause more severe systemic damage and chronic issues. STIs left untreated can have disastrous effects like pelvic inflammatory disease, which I'll let nurse Kathy Parks tell you about.
Sexually transmitted bacteria spreads from the vagina to the uterus, fallopian tubes, and/or ovaries.
This can lead to infertility. So as much as people think STIs are no big deal, they can turn into one. So catching it in early stages is important. But many sexually active people may unknowingly carry an STI, as some can be transmitted by asymptomatic carriers, or those with no symptoms. Viral STDs like herpes or HIV can also remain dormant in the body for an extended period of time and reactivate later, spreading even when there are no active symptoms.
Which means people don't know they are infected and unknowingly infect other people.
So be safe, not sorry. Get tested regularly. It's quick and painless, often just a swab or urine sample, and treatment, most often, an easy round of antibiotics. Also, condoms reduce STI risk, but don't fully protect against all. Some, like HPV, have vaccines. The point is, safe sex isn't just about preventing pregnancies, but also disease transmission. It's something worth planning for. Although, it seems like this was the general attitude for Lilly's male participants.
I never really think about things before I do them, so I've just kind of do them and then think, oh, you know, was that okay?
Okay. Enough with the doom and gloom. Sex is meant to be fun, not something to overthink. Not only is it a natural stress reliever, after all, you can't orgasm and worry about it at the same time, but regular sex comes with some big health benefits, like reducing the risk of stroke, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, period cramps, chronic pain, and even headaches.
The NIH found regular sexual activity in college-aged students was found to strengthen the immune system, and a long-term study in Wales found that older men who orgasm twice a week have a 50% drop in mortality rates.
And surely, a lot of the positive effects come from the stress-relieving aspects of sex. Many link benefits to the fact that sex is essentially a form of aerobic exercise.
They coined the term aerobic exercise to describe how oxygen burns to create energy in your body. The word aerobic means with oxygen.
So while we may have to catch our breath while we do aerobic exercise, it improves heart health, boosts endurance, and enhances fitness by increasing oxygen flow to the muscles. But for those who think that they can get away with sexercise alone, research shows it doesn't even stack up to moderate activities like jogging. Unless, of course, you're going at it like Lilly.
It was only like 40 and I was like, I'm not even halfway yet.
Yeah.
and 40 is still a lot of people. Like,
for the average person, around 6 minutes of actual physical activity per session doesn't quite measure up to a workout, even though it can feel like one. The heart rate, arousal, and emotional intensity make it seem more taxing, though the calorie burn is negligible. The bursts of effort, muscle use, and psychological factors all add to the feeling of exertion. However, Lilly's case is far from typical. Risks like dehydration from sweat and bodily fluids, along with fatigue, muscle cramps, and exhaustion are real concerns. So, staying hydrated is crucial. Proper rest and nutrition are key to avoiding cardiovascular strain and muscle fatigue.
Every time I've said, are you okay? Do you need a breather? She's like, no, bring the next guy in.
That may have worked with 100. Going for 1,000 will require extra caution. But it's not just the body that gets pumped up in sex. Your brain does too, which brings some hidden risks. Can you think of another mental state that also gets you hyped? Aggression. Sexual arousal and aggression both activate similar brain regions and neurotransmitters. David J. Anderson, a biology professor at Caltech, explains the social behavioral network model that helps scientists understand these emotional states and their impact on behavior.
Male aggression and male sexual behavior utilize a similar network of subcortical brain regions.
The limbic system, which controls emotions, is central to both sexual arousal and aggression. Key areas like the amygdala, the brain's fire alarm for danger, and the hypothalamus, which regulates sex and hunger, are involved. These primal brain regions serve evolutionary survival functions like mate selection, which often includes competition for dominance. While humans are obviously more complex than mice, studies show that these brain areas function similarly in both species, with neurons controlling arousal and aggression located dangerously close.
There's a certain brain area, it's called the ventromedial hypothalamus. This is a brain area that's really interesting because it has a population of neurons that control mating. You stimulate them and animals will just start trying to copulate. You stimulate the other group of neurons and they will try and kill the other mouse. So these are like switches in the hypothalamus.
So we walk a fine line between what Anderson describes as a moment of coital bliss between mating partners and the sudden growling and baring of fangs seen in wild animals.
The balance of whether it's the cooperative or antagonistic interactions that are firing at any given moment.
The crossover between make love not war and make war not love neural circuitry is risky. As more evolved beings, we usually choose to have sex with people we feel safe with, where there's vulnerability and emotional investment, creating an incentive to protect one another. But for someone like Lilly, that's hard to guarantee. As neuroscientist Douglas Fields explains, this brain circuitry can drive men to seek violence or pick fights, just for the dopamine rush that comes with aggression. A 2023 study showed that sexual arousal can impair decision-making, reducing executive function and making it harder to read social cues, like whether a partner is consenting or not. Hormonal influences can further fuel aggression, and in Lilly's situation, it's a room full of raging, no pun intended, testosterone. The power dynamic here is often drastically skewed.
Me and Body got on our knees and we got all 23 guys around us, like in a circle around us. Then we started just giving them jobs, getting them hard first.
Dr. Anderson explained the shift from arousal to aggression depends on how intensely certain brain regions are stimulated. Emotions like the desire to assert control or dominance can heighten this stimulation, making it easy for feelings of frustration, threat, or rejection to be misinterpreted and channeled as aggression. Now, I'm not suggesting that all aroused men are automatically aggressive. Sexual arousal can actually reduce aggression in some cases. The main takeaway is that arousal gets you worked up, making it crucial to channel that energy with intention. But unfortunately, violence is quite common in this line of work. A systematic review of global sex work found that 45 to 75% of women reported a history of violence, with 32 to 55% experiencing it in the past year. While this data refers mostly to more traditional forms of sex work like escorting, it's not a far cry from what Lilly is doing now. But again, she's not very worried.
Have you done anything to make sure there's not someone with a criminal record, for example, coming down?
We actually have not, no.
Do you feel safe?
Yeah. I mean, pretty sure I could take on some 50-year-old guy.
She doesn't seem to take the potential risks too seriously, thinking that the mere process of signing up and submitting an ID would deter anyone with bad intentions. Thankfully, she did have security at the door to check guests, mainly to ensure they weren't heavily intoxicated, which could increase the risk of aggression.
Go through to see my staff, they'd fill out all the paperwork, you know, make sure they're all not pissed and like sound-minded. And
for the most part, the event seemed to go smoothly, with no one put in serious danger. Lilly said the hardest part was having to stand on business, basically assert herself. She described the uncomfortable moments of rushing clients, even when they weren't finished. Most weren't. And the pressure she felt to give them a good experience, especially after they traveled so far to come see her. It was enough to make her emotional just talking about it.
What, you're not going to make me finish? I've come all this way. Like, kind of like guilt tripping me a little bit.
She didn't want to let them down, as she put it. But watching her in the aftermath, it almost seemed like she was beginning to realize the potential dangers of subjecting herself to such an extreme power imbalance. Listen, people often joke about blue balls, but this is quite literally the uncomfortable conversation she was having with these random guys. Blue balls refers to the pain or discomfort in the testicles after prolonged arousal without ejaculation. When aroused, blood flows to the penis and testicles, causing them to swell. If ejaculation doesn't happen, the blood stays trapped, leading to aching or pressure in the testicles, which can feel like a dull, uncomfortable pain.
I don't know what the technical term is. Penial softiosis.
The frustration comes from a mix of physical discomfort and unfulfilled sexual tension.
No, I have never once experienced anything remotely like that. Never.
With the pain usually subsiding on its own, it's not harmful, but certainly can be annoying. The concern is when this sexual frustration tips that delicate balance from arousal to aggression.
Washington Monument. Eiffel Tower.
Even if it doesn't escalate that far, I can imagine that in such a vulnerable position, a woman might interpret shifts in a man's mood from appreciation to disappointment as threatening. After a full day of this, it's easy to see how Lilly could feel emotionally overwhelmed, as the stuff she likely repressed when in robotic porn star mode resurfaces.
Try being more robotic, okay? Like this.
Not only are sex workers at higher risk of violence, including homicide, but social exclusion and mental health. While sex triggers the release of oxytocin, the bonding hormone, the dopamine, the reward hormone, frequent impersonal encounters can lead to emotional detachment and intimacy struggles. Over time, the brain craves more intense experiences, making long-term connections harder to form as the pursuit of novelty takes over, leaving the vanilla life unsatisfying. Then there's pressure to compromise personal morals and boundaries in search of the extreme. You're essentially playing with fire. As this anonymous escort puts it, most people start out naive.
But when you're first into it, you do get pressured a lot to do things that you may not be so comfortable with. Every client you see puts you at risk, and you have to be a very strong person, especially to not take drugs while doing this job, because you see a lot of shit, and also it's very depressing and lonely, and you live a lie.
She talks about seeing the darker side of people and relationships, like dealing with clients whose partners are unaware, which deepens her distrust of others. While Lilly doesn't seem to use drugs, she mentions dissociating, essentially her consciousness escaping reality. It seems she wants to avoid fully confronting the harshness of her work, at least in certain extreme situations, while still seeking the accolades. As fellow sex worker Alex Letizier says,
I think it's really sad. I just worry about her mental health. It's like you're signing a deal with the devil. Like, no one is going to see you as a human being. That's the reality of it. You're like the cash cow.
This isn't an ideal environment for mental health to thrive, which explains why mental health issues are prevalent among sex workers, affecting 50 to 71%. Mood disorders like depression and bipolar disorder are common, along with high rates of anxiety and PTSD.
And sometimes I think I've got PTSD because I literally get flashbacks sometimes of just random times.
Sex workers also face a high risk of suicide, substance abuse, and psychosis, along with comorbid conditions like eating disorders. Body image issues are a major concern. Looks are crucial in the industry, leading to constant comparisons. Studies consistently show that women in sex work face a disproportionate mental health burden, not only from the work itself, but also from societal stigma. Around 9 in 10 report experiencing stigma, with 3 in 4 internalizing it, which increases the risk of high-risk sexual behavior and mental health issues.
And also just the pure fact that people think so much less of you. Before anyone ever meets you, they already perceive you to be something.
She says it's hard to make friends who see the real her. As sex workers are ostracized, they often fall deeper into the behaviors that led to their marginalization, creating a destructive cycle. Many feel trapped, especially since most employers are hesitant to hire those with a sex work history, as former prosecutor and Nashville police officer Antoinette Welch explains.
So what are these women left with? Nowhere to live, no way to make a living. We're basically forcing them to go back into prostitution to just survive.
With society's judgment, it's understandable that someone like Lilly might struggle to admit she doesn't enjoy it as much as she claims. The pressure to maintain a certain narrative can make it hard to express vulnerability or dissatisfaction. So she doubles down on the idea that she feels empowered by her work, using it to protect her dignity, even when her raw reaction to the job says otherwise.
Just one in, one out, like it feels intense.
Like more intense than you thought it might.
Definitely.
Sorry. It's okay. Just take
1 minute.
That's not to say she can't have conflicting emotions about it, but she did say she felt like a prostitute, and not in a flattering way. I get why sex workers find terms like selling their body for sex degrading, as it oversimplifies the complexities of their experience. Obviously, sex workers deserve compassion and support like anyone else, but we need to honestly question how empowering this line of work really is, though I recognize it's a deeply nuanced issue. Lilly claims it's not about the money, but rather for the freedom this lifestyle affords her.
Working for myself, to be able to wake up and grab a coffee in the morning and not have to be in a desk at a 9 to 5, to be able to support myself, do something that I love.
Money. Just
and be able
so you know, that's money.
While it may not be about money for her directly, what Owens and the podcast host are trying to make her see is that it's money that gives her the type of freedom she's talking about: financial independence. So for her, having sex with hundreds of men is worth it. And I don't think it's fair to view Lilly's situation as isolated. It reflects broader societal values. We live in a hyper-capitalist world where our value is often tied to productivity. And when profit is prioritized above all, labor, whether physical, emotional, or sexual, becomes a transactional exchange, stripping away human dignity. This system pressures people to sacrifice their values and sense of self just to survive. This isn't about attacking capitalism, but recognizing how it shapes the choices people make. Fame culture also plays a big part in this dynamic.
Money's not like a driving force for me at all.
So what is the drive?
It's like success.
She's doing it for the world record, to boost her career and gain fame, something social media constantly entices people with. But we have to ask, is being known for something that may not be entirely honorable truly a good thing?
I get like serotonin, like from when people are like, oh my God, you're that on the internet. Sounds crazy.
I know, and I know you're saying that to me right here, but I don't believe that.
Really?
No.
It seems like she craves attention, no matter the form, which makes you wonder, can we really say that's coming from a place of genuine self-worth? As Welch points out, nearly 90% of sex workers have experienced sexual abuse in childhood. It's often trauma that drives them to do it.
These women are told their entire life the only value that they have is what somebody else will pay for their body.
She argues that it's a myth that prostitutes enjoy it, and warns not to be fooled by their happy appearances, that it's often their pimps or traffickers using fear to control them. But for someone like Lilly, who works independently, it raises the question, is the objectification ingrained in society subtly influencing her choices? After all, she started because men were sexualizing her, then decided, at least let me get paid, yo.
It's just a sad world that we live in, that you can earn so much money from literally selling your body.
This video is about health, And health is about building empowering habits. And to do that, we got to be honest with ourselves. So, are people like Lilly truly finding liberation? Or are they coping with an exploitive system that doesn't offer them the support that they need? Their sense of empowerment may be more about doing whatever they have to in order to survive than genuine choice. And I'm just not sure freedom would be the best way to describe that. I'll end with a tweet I saw on X commenting on Lilly's journey, saying that out of fear of being labeled judgmental, people stayed silent, letting her go down a path that, in hindsight, seemed like a veiled suicide attempt. A cry for help that she now uses to justify her belief that she's worth nothing more than to be used sexually. If you learned anything in this video, then all I would ask is that you leave a comment and give it a big thumbs up to feed the algorithm. This will help us to grow the channel so that we can create more engaging videos in the future. We are working towards a goal of 1 million subs, and we would love to have you with us when we get there. Don't forget to follow my gym, Human 2.0 Fitness, for free right here on YouTube, where we post content that helps you move better and prevent injury. Or its sister channel, Human at Home, where we show you how to be healthy in the space where you live. Otherwise, as always, that's been a word from Dr. Chris, not your everyday ortho, where we see one, do one, teach one.